Grave Dust and Gunpowder. Chapter 1. The Wind That Spoke of Death. An audiobook from Whispers Between Worlds. The wind rolled through the dry grass like it had a secret. Not a loud one, just a whisper, cruel and patient, the kind that carried the smell of something foul long before you saw the body. Footsteps crunching in dirt, saddle creaking, a crow shrieking somewhere overhead. Alana adjusted her wide-brimmed hat and lowered her rifle. Her boot heel twisted into the cracked dirt as she knelt, staring at a half-melted hoofprint. The tracks weren't fresh, but they weren't dead either. Maria leaned in beside her, shotgun slung low and eyes colder than the wind. "Ain't no rider with sense come this far without good reason," she muttered. "You think it's them again?" Alana asked. Maria didn't answer. She just stood and kept walking. They had no map, just instinct. Instinct and the sound of flies that didn't buzz like they used to. Shift. Wind howls through a broken shutter. Piano notes wobble and die in the distance. Miles east in the town of Deadwater Ridge, Melissa was wrapped in arms that had never held her right until tonight. Neat's lips brushed hers, careless and familiar, their hands tangled in the cotton sheets as the lantern flickered above them. The air was thick summer, still held its grip, even as the world outside was starting to rot. "You ever think we'd get out of here?" he asked, half laughing. "We ain't out," Melissa said. "We just forgot we're still in it." A noise outside, a long dragging thud. Not boots, not horses, a weight that shuffled, groaned. Neat grabbed his revolver and moved toward the window. "Probably drunk again," he mumbled. But Melissa was already off the bed, already reaching for her blade. Because she knew that sound. She'd heard it once before, when she buried her sister and the casket came back empty. Gunshot, then silence, then a gurgled, snarling breath like lungs full of wet gravel. Back on the prairie, Alana and Maria spotted something on the ridge, a shape, limping, its shadow stretched the wrong way. "We ride," Maria said. "Toward it? Ain't no away from this." And they did. Because when the dead come up under your boots, you don't run, you reload. Chapter 2. Hollow Graves Don't Sleep. A scream cut across the dry wind. Not the kind born of pain, but recognition. The scream of a woman who saw something that should have stayed buried. Melissa slammed the shutters closed just as Neat fired again. The second shot cracked the silence wide open. The thing outside didn't fall, just staggered, leaking black from a hole that should have ended it. "What the hell?" Neat stepped back, gun shaking. "I shot it in the heart." Melissa grabbed her boots, then her blade, then Neat's collar. "That ain't where the dead feel pain." She dragged him toward the back door. Town had been quiet for days, too quiet, like it had swallowed its own breath. Now it was coughing up corpses. Cut to distant thunder, desert wind picking up, hoofbeats, dry lightning flashes behind jagged cliffs. Alana and Maria had reached an old wagon camp burnt out and buzzing with flies. The air was thick with a copper stink. Maria hopped down first, stepping over blackened bones. "These ain't bandits," she muttered. "Then who?" Alana asked. "Worse." One of the corpses twitched. Just a finger, then a whole arm. Then the damn thing monadry and cracked like old leather. Alana raised her rifle. "They're getting faster," Maria warned. "They're learning." One shot, then another. The air filled with that same slow groan, not from one but dozens, all rising from beneath the sand like the desert itself was done staying dead. Back in Deadwater Ridge, Melissa and Neat ran through alleyways past broken wagons, shuttered stores, and doors that never opened again. Every shadow twitched, every sound made Neat flinch. "This ain't natural," he hissed. "Neither are we," Melissa said. She stopped by a barn, breathing hard. The horses were gone, just blood and rope. But Melissa didn't look surprised, just angry. "I know who started this," she whispered. Neat's jaw clenched. "You think it's her?" Melissa nodded, one name on her breath like a curse. Eustace. Somewhere far off, in a canyon where the wind didn't blow, something ancient opened its eyes. Not human. Not yet. Chapter 3. Ashes That Don't Burn. Smoke drifted low across the desert floor, like it was crawling on its belly, afraid to rise. Alana and Maria rode faster than they should. The sun beat hard above them, but the cold wasn't coming from the sky. It was seeping out of the ground, from the dead town ahead. They didn't speak, but both knew the name before the first corpse stood up from the dirt. Deadwater Ridge. Melissa and Neat burst through the chapel doors. The preacher was gone, the pews empty. The stained glass bled sunlight across the floor in broken colors. "We need weapons," Melissa said. "What? More than this?" Neat shook his revolver. "You can't kill what's already buried." She moved to the altar, pulled the cloth back, revealing something etched into the wooden old Apache ward, burned clean through the oak. "What is that?" Neat asked. "It's what was keeping them out." Melissa turned. Something in her eyes had shifted, gone harder, older. Someone took it off, on purpose. Outside, distant moaning, the dry rattle of bone and tongue. Cut to Alana and Maria dismounting. Their boots crunch glass. A trail of blood leads into the sheriff's office. Maria pressed her back to the doorframe. Alana stepped through slow, rifle ready. There, in the middle of the floor, was a man, or what used to be. His face was torn, lips peeled back in a grin too wide, flies circled like vultures. His fingers twitched. Alana didn't wait. Crack? The shot echoed down the empty main street. "They're not fresh," Maria said, "but they're not old either." They turned. 3 more stood in the alley behind them, then 5 more in front, then 10 more across the rooftops climbing like spiders. Alana whispered, not to Maria, but maybe to the world. "This town's been waiting for us." In the chapel, Melissa poured lamp oil across the pews. Neat hesitated. "We can't just burn it. This ain't God's house anymore." She struck a match. The flame didn't roar, it howled. For a moment, in the flicker, Melissa saw them, faces in the smoke. Her mother, her sister, a girl with no mouth, all of them mouthing the same name. Eustace. Outside, the town was coming alive, but not with breath, not with hope, only hunger. Chapter 4. The Hollow Prophet Walks. The town burned slow. Deadwater Ridge glowed like a lantern in a wasteland. Fire crackled through the chapel, through the sheriff's station, through windows that hadn't seen a soul in months. And through it all, the dead kept walking. Flames didn't stop them. Bullets slowed them, but never dropped them for good. Alana and Maria ducked behind a feed cart, gun barrels hot, hearts hammering, eyes wild. "Ain't never seen 'em like this," Alana panted. "They ain't dying, right?" Maria hissed, like they waitin' for a signal. Then the wind shifted, and with it a smell, not smoke, not rot, frankincense. Footsteps, heavy, slow, measured, spurs clinking like bone on stone. A figure walked out of the smoke, tall, hat low, black duster brushing the dirt behind him. His boots left no footprints. The dead stopped. Every single one of them froze. And then they knelt. Melissa stood across the square, sword in hand, her face pale with firelight. Neat beside her, trembling. "No," she whispered. "It ain't possible." But it was. Eustace Raines stepped into the firelight, untouched by flame. His eyes were empty pits, his face aged but unscarred. Time had forgotten him. He raised his hand. The fire dimmed. "Melissa," he said. "You've grown." The dead turned to her. "All of them?" Maria raised her shotgun. "Who the hell is that?" "The one who started it," Melissa said. "The man my mama said would come back when the land forgot how to rest." Neat stepped forward. "What does he want?" Melissa didn't answer, not with words. She stepped into the street and drew a mark in the dirt with her blade-ear spiral, wrapped in thorns. Eustace smiled. "The vessel remembers," he said. Then, with a voice that cracked the ground, "Bring her." The dead rose. Chapter 5. Wormstone and the Night the Earth Bled. 12 years ago. Wormstone Canyon. The mine was already cursed before he ever stepped inside. Men had been hearing whispers in the stone for months like wind, but deeper, like voices from the cracks in the earth. The miners drank more, slept less. Some started drawing symbols on the walls. Some dug straight down when they were told not to. Some never came back up. Pickaxe, striking rock, faint wind blowing where no wind should be, then silence, thick as a grave. His name was Eustace Rains. He came in on a Wednesday, dressed in black, riding a white horse with eyes too pale to blink. No dust clung to him, no sunburn touched his skin. He said he was a preacher, sent to cleanse the place. Said he could end the bad luck. He offered to bless the canyon. "There's a sickness beneath your feet," he told the foreman, "but I know how to talk to it." They let him in. Torchlight flickering through mine tunnels, a low, steady chant growing louder. They found the first altar a day later. Bones arranged in circles, dead rats nailed to timber, words burned into the stone in a language nobody knew, twisting, fluid, wrong. By the time they went to arrest him, he was already at the bottom of Shaft 9 with 20 men, and he was chanting, and they were chanting with him. Witnesses say the air turned cold in the heat of July. The rocks began to bleed. The shadows on the walls started to move on their own. Then the earth cracked. A sound came out of that pit no man should ever hear, something older than time, something that wanted in. Melissa's mother arrived too late to stop it. She rode all night from the ghost nations, bones in her hair and iron at her hip. She carved a ward in the canyon mouth and dragged Eustace out by his tongue. But she couldn't kill him. Not yet. Instead, she cursed him, scarred him, with a binding that chained his soul to the dust of Wormstone itself. It would take years for him to walk again, years to gather the dead. And he swore he'd use Melissa as the final key. "You're the door, child," he said, bleeding from his eyes, "and I am the voice on the other side." The canyon was buried, the mine sealed, but the whispering never stopped. Cut back to present day, Melissa's eyes snap open. Her hand is still in the spiral. The town burns behind her. The hollow ones rise. And far off, across the flats, Wormstone begins to crack again. Chapter 6. When the horses wouldn't ride. Wind howling through broken boards, a horse panicking, distant growls under sun-scorched silence. Alana pulled hard on the reins, but the mare wouldn't budge. Eyes rolled white, nostrils flaring, hooves stomping the dirt like something underneath was crawling up. Maria's horse bucked once then bolted without her. "She's gone," Maria spat, landing hard on the dust. Just felt it, like something bit the air. Alana dismounted, rifle ready, jaw clenched. The dead were behind them, but something worse was ahead. Back in the chapel ruins, Melissa crouched low behind a stone well. Eustace was still standing in the town square, watching her with eyes that drank light. The hollow ones moved, not chasing no wording, driving her toward the open desert like a wolf circles sheep. Neat breathed heavy beside her. "They ain't even attacking, just steering us." "Yeah," Melissa said, blade in hand. "Toward Wormstone." They regrouped at the northern ridge outside town. Alana, Maria, Melissa, and Neat. The reunion was brief. A glance, a nod, no tears, no time. "Horses ain't right," Alana said. "They feel it too," Melissa replied. The ground cracked beneath them. It was the same sandstone dust as before, but now it pulsed. Not like a quake, like a heartbeat. Faint, but real. "We walk," Maria said, already shouldering her pack. "Ain't far to Barlow's Fork if we cut the flats." "That's dead land," Neat said. "It's the only way," Melissa replied. "They'll expect us on the trail." Footsteps on brittle soil, heat rippling in the distance, a buzz in the air like flies, but there ain't no flies. Hours passed. The sun didn't move. No clouds, no wind, no time. Then they found the bones. An entire horse, skeleton picked clean, harness still intact. The bit was twisted, melted. Then another, and another. 10 in total. All pointed in one direction back toward the town. Maria stopped. "They ain't just blocking us," she said. "They're turning the land against us." Melissa knelt in the dust. Her hand brushed a symbol carved in stone and eye with no lid, surrounded by teeth. "It's a ward," she said, "but reversed. He's sealed the flatlands with fear." "What the hell does that mean?" Alana asked. The wind answered. It screamed. From the horizon, black figures rose not from the dirt. but from shadows, long-limbed, crawling, mouths too wide, faces wrapped in gauze and wire. They didn't walk. They drifted, and the desert no longer felt dry. It felt hungry. Chapter 7. Barlow's Fork Isn't Empty. Rusty signs swinging on a broken hinge. Barlow's Fork, Pop! Boot steps echo on cracked wood. Wind, then nothing. Just the feeling that someone's still watching from behind the windows. They crossed the flats just before dusk. Blistered, bloodied, tired. Something followed them the whole way, but it never touched the ground. Just hovered, a shifting black stain that seemed to breathe when they looked away. Barlow's Fork appeared like a fever, dream dust-covered buildings, a windmill turning without wind, and the sound of a piano key hitting the same wrong note over and over. "I thought this place burned," Maria said, shotgun tight to her chest. "Parts of it did," Alana replied. "The rest refused to die." They entered the saloon. Inside, chairs overturned, glasses still half full, a body slumped over the piano, head twisted all the way around, and yet the keys moved, one at a time. "He ain't dead right," Neat whispered. "None of 'em are," Melissa said. "This town's on pause. Eustace did this." "Then why ain't they moving?" "Because he hasn't told them to." They split up to find supplies, food, ammo, water. It was risky, but everything now was. Maria found a cellar, dusty, but stocked. Alana found a rifle buried beneath a trapdoor in the blacksmith's oltungs. Melissa found a mirror that reflected everyone except her. "This place ain't empty," she whispered to herself. "It's waiting." Night fell hard. They lit lanterns in the sheriff's office, boarded the windows, tried to rest. Neat stood guard while the women drifted off in shifts. But sometime after midnight, the piano played again. Not a key or two. A song. Alana woke first, rifle drawn. Then Maria. Then Melissa. The song stopped, but someone was walking downstairs. Slow, heavy, measured. They opened the office door. Downstairs, in the saloon, the piano man had stood up, his head still twisted backward, eyes wide and sobbing. He raised a hand and pointed behind them. They turned and saw the wall bleeding. The words written in something too dark to be ink. "She's not the only one he wants." Behind them, the town began to stir. One house at a time, one shadow at a time, one scream at a time. Barlow's Fork was waking up, and they were already inside. Chapter 8. The Devil's Teeth. Starlight over shattered peaks. The canyon yawns like a mouth with too many teeth. Wind hums low between stone spires, whispering names that ain't been spoken in 100 years. They didn't wait for the dead to rise. Barlow's Fork was gone. Not burnt, not buried. Just forgotten. Like it never wanted to be remembered. Melissa led the way, blade drawn, eyes sharp. Her breath came in short bursts, not from fear, but from memory. "I remember this canyon," she said. "You been here before?" Neat asked. "No," she said, "but it knows me." The path twisted through sheer rock. Jagged walls loomed on either side, too close together. The horses, those that hadn't run, off refused to enter. So they walked, footfalls echoing in silence that felt watched. They called it the Devil's Teeth Canyon, cursed by both tribal elders and colonial priests, a place so steeped in blood it couldn't grow weeds. Bones lay half buried in crevices, some human, some not. "Y'all feel that?" Maria asked. The wind stopped, just stopped. Alana raised her rifle. A voice echoed her name, but not spoken. Whispered from inside the rock. "We ain't alone," Alana said. "We never were," Melissa replied. Then the walls began to move. Not crumble, shift, like ribs adjusting after a long breath. Stone scraped against stone, revealing glyphs beneath layers of dust, ancient, moving, alive. From above, shapes began to crawl, pale, blind, clinging to the cliffside, like insects. Mouths stretched wide, no eyes, just nostrils and rows of bone. They didn't scream. They sucked air in. "Run!" Alana shouted. But there was only one way forward, deeper into the canyon. The creatures dropped. One landed on Maria. It had no tongue, just fingers in its mouth. She slammed it into the wall, shot it in the throat. It laughed. "They're not trying to kill us," she panted. "They're testing us." Melissa stopped at a narrow stone door, half buried, carved with a spiral. "This is where it starts," she said. "What does?" "The part where we don't come back." She pressed her hand to the door. It opened itself. Inside, silence, deeper than any tomb. No shadows because there was no light, just warmth, like something asleep, breathing. "Welcome back, daughter," a voice said. Not Eustace, something older. Chapter 9. The Voice Under the Dust. Inside the canyon's hidden chamberno, torches. No sky, no sound. Just a stillness so heavy it bends the breath, like standing beneath an ocean made of dirt. Melissa stepped inside first. The others hesitated. Even Alana, who never flinched. Even Maria, who once dragged her bleeding husband into a burning barn just to shoot him twice more after he died. This was different. "Ain't natural," Maria whispered. "Neither is she," Neat answered without thinking. Melissa turned slowly. "He's right," she said. "This place, it remembers me." The walls weren't carved, they were grown. Roots of ancient trees long turned to bone, curled like veins across the ceiling. Symbols pulsed under the skin of the stone, like ink trapped inside a body still alive. In the center, a pit, round, endless. "This is a womb," Melissa said. "Ain't no womb I've ever seen," Alana muttered, rifle raised. Then the voice came. Not loud, not sharp, but deep. So deep it didn't enter through earset, soaked through bone. "Child of the split blood, why do you return?" Melissa dropped to one knee. Not by choice, her legs just gave out. The others backed up, weapons raised. "I didn't come for you," she whispered. "I came to stop him." The voice laughed. "You think Eustace acts alone?" "Omsel." From the pit, hands began to rise. Dozens, grey, charred, all reaching not for Melissa, but for each other. Forming something. A shape? A body? He opened the door. "But you are the key." Melissa screamed. The spiral on her palm burned there by her mother the night she was born lit up. Glowed red. "You want me to carry you," she spat. "That's what this has always been." The voice didn't answer. Instead, it sighed. And the ground collapsed. They fell, all four of them, down into a space that wasn't space at all. Just dirt and memory and grief. They landed in a chamber below, a cavern filled with bones, each one humming. In the center, a stone cradle, filled with blood and breathing. Melissa stepped closer. The thing inside the cradle opened its eyes. And they were hers. Chapter 10. Blood born twice. The stone cradle glows faint red. The blood inside doesn't ripple, it breathes. Steam curls upward in lazy tendrils, and within it, a child, not born, not dead, waiting. Melissa didn't move. The others stood back, unsure whether to stop her or save themselves. "Is that you?" Neat whispered. "No," she said, voice distant. "It's what I would have been, if my mother hadn't fought back." The creature in the cradle looked like a child. Her child, but with skin too pale, hair like river ash, and eyes that shimmered between worlds. "It's not human," Alana growled. "Neither is she anymore," Maria added quietly. The voice returned. Not from above, from within the cradle. Born from wound and whisper, meant for vessel, meant for voice, meant to walk the land as death in bloom. Melissa stepped closer. Her spiral glowed brighter. The stone beneath her feet cracked like old ribs. She saw it then. Everything. The ritual in Wormstone. The curse her mother carved into her bones. The bloodline tied to something ancient that was never meant to wake. The reason Eustace needed her alive. She wasn't the door. She was the lock. And this thing, this child, was the keyhole. "If I take it," she said, eyes still on the cradle, "Eustace can't control me anymore." "What happens to us if you do?" Neat asked. "Nothing good," Maria muttered, cocking her shotgun. "Let her finish," Alana said. Melissa reached in. The blood hissed. The chamber trembled. The child didn't cry. It smiled. "Welcome back, Mother." Melissa didn't blink. She placed her hand over the child's chest, and everything inside her changed. Lightning struck underground. Every glyph in the canyon ignited at once. The curse that bound Eustace shattered like glass. And somewhere far away, in a cathedral of ash, the hollow prophet opened his arms wide and laughed. "It is done," he whispered. "She's been reborn." Melissa rose from the cradle, but she was no longer just Melissa. Her eyes burned red, her voice echoed. "He doesn't own me," she said, "but now I know what I am." The cradle collapsed behind her. The child was gone, but her blood wasn't. Chapter 11. The Hollow Prophet's Feast. Thunder rolls over a land that forgot how to rain. Dust devils churn, crows circle low, their shadows twisting like smoke. In the valley below, fires bloom like open sores, and the prophet feeds. Eustace Rains stood at the edge of the ravine, eyes closed, arms lifted. The dead knelt around him, thousands now, hollow ones, drifters, children, entire towns sewn back together with wire and whispers. And now, newer things had joined them. Creatures that hadn't walked the earth since it was young, bone-wrapped, mouthless beasts that swam through sand like water. "This land is mine now," Eustace said, "and I owe it to the Mother." Behind him, a long wooden table stretched across the hilltop. At its center sat a throne carved from gravestones. On the plates, not food, teeth, fingers, eyes, offerings. The feast of hollow flesh had begun. Far away, under the light of a dying moon, Melissa walked alone. The others followed, but at a distance. She moved differently now, not faster, just untouched. The heat didn't bite her anymore. Her footsteps didn't leave prints. The air bent when she breathed. "You sure you're still you?" Maria finally asked. Melissa looked back, just once. "I'm the part of me that survived," she said. Everything else burned off. Alana didn't speak. Neat stared at her like a man who loved a flame, even if it scorched him. Cut to a town on the edge of a canyon. Children laugh, a dog barks, then silence. The sky turns black. The hollow ones arrive. No warnings, no mercy. They walk through doors, not breaking them. They smile with no lips. They invite themselves in. And then they wait, because the prophet hasn't given the word yet. Eustace lifts a chalice of black fluid. Tonight, the gate opens. He places a crown of bone on his head. Tomorrow, the sun doesn't rise. He drinks and screams. The ground splits beneath him. The feast becomes a summoning. A god begins to crawl out from underneath the world, one bone at a time. In the distance, Melissa turns toward the sound. "It's time," she whispers. "For what?" Alana asks. "For me to decide," Melissa says, "if I'm here to end this, or to finish what he started." Chapter 12. Red Sky at Morning. Sunrise never comes. The horizon just glows red like an ember left too long in a dead fire. The wind carries ash, the birds don't sing, and somewhere in the distance, an entire town holds its breath. Knowing what's coming, knowing it's already too late. The town of Bell's Hollow had survived famine, fire, and a war it never asked to be part of. But it wouldn't survive this. The streets were quiet, empty but not deserted. Families huddled in cellars, men prayed with shaking hands, women whispered the names of their children over and over like mantras. Because the dead were outside, not moving, just standing. Dozens of them, lined up along the main road, their heads tilted upward, arms open like they were waiting for rain. At the center of them all, Eustace, his crown of bone, his robes soaked in black ichor, eyes like dry wells. "You hid your prophet," he spoke to no one in particular, "but not your sins." Behind him, the ground bubbled. The god beneath the world was waking. On a ridge above the town, Melissa stared down, red glow flickering in her veins like coals in blood. Maria chambered around. "If you go down there, there's no coming back." "I already didn't," Melissa said. Alana stepped beside her. "You got a plan?" "I'm going to kill him." "Then what?" "Then I figure out if I still deserve to live." They rode hard through the smoke. The dead didn't move, didn't react. just watched. Melissa dismounted first, walking straight toward Eustace. "Thought you'd come crawling," he said. "I came standing," she replied. "You've felt it, haven't you?" His voice cracked. "The God in your blood, the song in your bones." "I heard it," Melissa said, eyes burning, "and I told it to shut up." The hollow one stirred, but Eustace raised a hand. "Let her come." She stepped within feet of him, then stopped. "I was born to hold you back," she said, "but now I'm wondering if I was born to replace you." "Then do it," he said, spreading his arms. She stepped closer. Her fingers brushed his chest. Then she smiled. "Not today," and drove her blade straight through his heart. The ground exploded. Black tendrils ripped through the dirt, dragging Eustace screaming into the earth. The hollow ones fell not dead, but disconnected, collapsing like puppets with cut strings. But the god below wasn't done. The red sky shattered like glass, and something stepped through. Melissa turned to the others. Her eyes had gone black. Not hollow, not lost, full. "Run," she said. "What about you?" Neat asked. "I'm not running anymore." She turned toward the god and smiled. Chapter 13. The mother wakes alone. The red sky no longer glows. It pulses like a heartbeat made of fire. The ground cracks open in every direction. The wind doesn't blow, it hisses, whispering names that haven't been born yet. The god beneath the dirt has come to the surface, and Melissa stands alone to meet it. Alana, Maria, Neat. They ran when she told them to, but none of them looked back, because they knew Melissa wasn't coming with them. Not the same, maybe not ever. She stood at the mouth of the broken earth. Steam rose from the crater, not like smoke, more like breath. Then it emerged, not in full, just a piece, a limb that looked like flesh but moved like shadow, a voice that came in pulses, not sound, just pressure. "You called me mother, but I am not yours. You are mine." Melissa didn't flinch. She stepped into the crater. "Then take me," she said. The thing reached forward and touched her chest. Everything inside her opened. She saw it all. The bloodline cursed to carry silence. The women who burned instead of bowed. The men who tried to chain death and called it faith. And at the center of it all, her. Not chosen, made. The god did not devour her. It folded into her. Her skin burned away. Her eyes vanished. Her voice cracked open like thunder-made flesh. What stood in Melissa's place was still shaped like her. But it was taller, older, bound in the veil of life and death itself. She had no shadow, because she had become one. Miles away, Alana stopped her horse. Looks back. The horizon was black now, but it wasn't storm clouds. It was her. Maria covered her mouth. Neat fell to his knees. The god had been reborn, and it wore Melissa's face. Chapter 14. The new law of the land. The towns don't sleep anymore. They wait. Every window is an eye. Every church bell rings without hands. The air carries her name in different tongues. Some whisper it with hope, others with fear. But all of them know one thing: the old law is dead, and something new wears its skin. They call her the Dust Mother now. Shrines rise where gallows once stood. Statues built from bones, burned wood, and bloodied coins. Some towns offer worship. Some resist and are reduced to ash not by fire, but by silence. No thunder, no screams. Just gone. Alana and Maria rode quiet across the high ridge, overlooking what's left of Sable Creek. A mining town just a week ago. Now, the dirt was smooth. Too smooth. Like it had been pressed flat by a giant hand. And in the center, a spiral burned into the earth. Maria dismounted. She's not hiding anymore. Alana spit into the dust. She ain't Melissa. Maybe not, Maria said, but she remembers her. That's worse. At night, they stayed at the edge of forgotten townsplaces, too small for the Dust Mother to notice. For now, Alana sharpened her knives. Maria cleaned the same shotgun over and over. "You think she'd stop for us?" Maria asked. "Number. You think she'd remember us?" "That's what scares me." Then came the letter, delivered by a child with no eyes, mouth sewn shut. He handed Maria a folded slip of cloth marked with blood. Inside, "Come to the chapel at Dry Mercy. No war, no traps. Just an offer. M." Alana burned the message. But Maria didn't move. "If there's a piece of her left in there," she began. "There ain't. But if there is," Maria said, eyes heavy, "we owe her the chance." 2 days later, they reached Dry Mercy. No guards, no hollow ones, just wind and quiet. And in the chapel, Melissa, wearing a veil made of crow feathers, hands folded, eyes still her own, but deeper. "You came," she said. Alana raised her rifle. "Don't think I won't." Melissa smiled sadly. "You shouldn't. You killin' towns, Melissa. You letting 'em worship bones and nightmares." "No," Melissa said. "I'm showing them what gods actually look like." Maria stepped forward. "So what's the offer?" "Join me," Melissa said, "or watch the world burn wrong." "Wrong? Without you in it." Maria looked to Alana, then back at her oldest friend or sister, not by blood, but battle. "You sure there ain't no other way?" she whispered. Melissa blinked once and said, "Number." Alana pulled the trigger. Chapter 15. Blood on the Veil. The sound of the gunshot didn't echo. It just disappeared, swallowed whole by the chapel walls, as if even sound itself wasn't sure whose side it was on. The bullet struck her, not center mass. Alana wasn't aiming to kill yet. The round punched through Melissa's left shoulder, clean through, burning bright like it hit something older than flesh. She staggered. Her veil slipped. And for the first time, she bled. Black at first, then red, then both. "Told you," Alana said, lowering her rifle. "Still human somewhere in there." Melissa didn't scream, didn't fall. She smiled. "You just made your choice." The chapel shook. The stained glass cracked, not from force, but from grief. The spiral on the floor ignited in a ring of light. The door slammed shut behind them. Maria dove behind a pew, shotgun aimed. Alana reloaded. Melissa stepped forward, not walking, drifting. Her feet didn't touch the ground now. The wound closed before their eyes. "I didn't want it to be this way," she said. "Then you shouldn't have turned into a god," Maria snapped. "I didn't turn," Melissa hissed. "I was born this way. You think I asked for this?" She raised her hand. The floorboards split. From beneath the chapel, something crawled up. Not a hollow one. Not undead. Something else. Its skin was made of church robes. Its face was all mouths. "You brought a sermon to a gunfight?" Alana growled. She shot it. The creature screamed like a choir on fire. Maria hurled a lantern. Flames lit the walls, caught the altar, spread fast. Melissa didn't move. "You think this is a war you can win?" she asked. "You think I can die like them?" "No," Alana said. "But we know how to make you hurt." And they did. They ran straight at her. Shotguns, blades, ash in their teeth. Not to kill her, to remind her of dust, of fire, of when the world bled for people like them. Melissa screamed. And for the first time since she became the Dust Mother, she sounded afraid. Chapter 16. Let Her Bleed. The chapel burns, not with fire alone, but with memory. Flames cling to the pews like old regrets. The walls cry black smoke. The spiral on the floor cracks. And somewhere beneath it all, a god begins to scream. Like a woman remembering pain. Melissa collapsed. Not like a corpse. Like someone waking up too fast. Her hands clutched her chest, where Alana's bullet had torn something more than skin. Her breaths came ragged. Her eyes flickered red then, blue then, just brown. Normal, human, and terrified. Maria knelt beside her, blade drawn but not pressed. "What did you do?" she whispered. "You cut me loose," Melissa gasped. "From it, from him." "From what?" Alana said, still aiming her rifle. "You got 5 seconds to sound like the woman we buried once." Melissa looked at them, truly looked, and cried. "I didn't become a god," she said. "I became a prison." The burning chapel howled. The sermon creature now writhing in, flame split open, and from it crawled something else. Thin, bone white, no face, just a spine that twitched like it was trying to stand. It reached for Melissa. "That's it," she whispered. "That's what was inside me." "What the hell is it?" Maria asked. "A memory," Melissa said. "Older than words. Eustace didn't just wake, I fed it. I was the womb, the vessel, the veil. And now..." She stood, blood dripping from her fingers. "Now it's out." The creature turned toward the burning window. The air shattered around it. Screams from miles away could be heard through its breath. It didn't need to kill. It unmade. Alana fired. The round passed through it. Maria threw a blade. It curved in midair. Melissa stepped forward and screamed. Not in fear, not in pain. In command. The thing stopped. Trembled. "I was your prison," she said. "And now I'm your grave." She walked into it, literally stepped inside. And as she did, her body began to glow. Bright, violent, red like sunlit blood. "Melissa," Neat's voice from the doorway. He had come back. He always would. But she didn't turn. She didn't speak. She simply burned from the inside out and took the creature with her. When the fire died, she was gone. Just ash. No sound. No wind. No God. Alana dropped to her knees. Maria turned her face away. Neat picked up the only thing left behind, a single feather from the veil. Chapter 17. Ashes ride west. The wind finally returns to the desert. It doesn't speak, doesn't scream, it just moves like it used to, carrying dust, carrying quiet, carrying the last breath of a woman who once held back the end of the world. Melissa was gone. Not dead, not missing, gone. Her ashes scattered across the chapel ruins, carried west by a wind that refused to settle. Alana stood in silence, boots planted in the soot. Maria knelt nearby, wiping blood off her blade with a shirt she'd worn since Elkhorn Ridge. Neat stared at the feather in his palm. "She really did it," he whispered. "Did what?" Alana asked. "Chose us over herself." Maria rose slow, her voice tired. "It's never that clean." They buried nothing. There was no body, just a circle of scorched ground, too quiet to trust. The towns below, the ones that hadn't burned, felt the shift. The sky lightened. Birds returned. And people whispered, "The Dust Mother is dead." But in the Wormstone Canyons, nothing whispered. It watched. Alana, Maria, and Neat rode west by noon. No destination. Just movement. The land wasn't safe. Not anymore. Not because of hollow ones or cursed prophets, but because when a god dies, something always comes to fill the space. They reached a ridge above a valley untouched by war, small town, smoke from a cook fire, laughter, hope. Alana scanned the horizon. "You think it's really over?" she asked. Maria didn't answer. Neat turned the feather in his fingers. The veins shimmered. Still warm. That night, Alana dreamt of a desert with no end. Maria dreamt of fire that never burned out. Neat dreamt of Melissa's eyes, but they weren't hers anymore. They were watching him. Chapter 18. Something fills the space. Nothing stays empty long in the desert. Not a boot print. Not a grave. Not a god-shaped hole in the sky. And now, something old and wordless is crawling up from the silence Melissa left behind. It doesn't ask permission. It doesn't need a name. But it's coming just the same. A week passed. No hollow ones. No Eustace. No Dust Mother. People started coming out of their hiding places, creaking open cellar doors and peeling boards off windows. They spoke her name in past tense now. She saved us. She ended it. We're free. But that freedom came too easy. and deep down, the land knew better. Alana, Maria, and Neat reached the town of Crossvale by dusk. Small, still breathing, cautious. But wrong. The people smiled with too many teeth. Their eyes didn't blink, and every house had the same symbol scratched into the doorframe. Not a spiral, not a cross, just a void. Maria clocked it first. "That ain't worship," she said. "That's an invitation." Neat clutched the feather. It twitched. Alive again, just barely. In the saloon, the barkeep poured drinks that didn't smell like whiskey. In the corner, a little girl hummed a tune in reverse. On the wall, behind a veil of dust, was a portrait of Melissa. But the face wasn't quite hers. It was thinner, sharper, smiling with no warmth. Underneath, the mother was merely the beginning. Alana slammed her glass down. "This town ain't right." Maria stood slow. "Number, but it's familiar." "How?" Maria's face went pale. "Because I dreamed this place 2 days ago." Outside, the sun dipped too fast. The light drained from the sky like it was being siphoned. Neat stepped into the street, drawn by something in his bones. The feather in his hand burned red. From the well in the center of town came a sound. Not water, a heartbeat. Slow, echoing. Then, a voice. Not Melissa's bee, but close. The dust settled, but the bones remembered. Alana cocked her rifle. Maria drew her blade. Neat didn't move, because the voice had spoken his name. Chapter 19. What the bones remember. Some say the past stays buried. But in the West, the past grows teeth. It waits underground like old guilt and crawls up the spine when your back's turned. And sometimes, if your blood is loud enough, it speaks your name. Neat didn't run. Not when the feather burned. Not when the sky dimmed. Not even when the well whispered his name in a voice that sounded half like Melissa and half like something else. Alana reached for him. "Neat, get back." But he shook his head. "I think this was always coming." Maria stared at the well. The stones around it had changed. Grown slick, dark, breathing. And along the lip, freshly carved letters that weren't there a moment ago. The key always needed a lock. Neat dropped to one knee. Not in pain. In recognition. "When she burned," he whispered, "she didn't take it all. She left something behind. Something in me." Alana's voice cracked. "Don't you do this. Don't you finish what she died to end." Neat looked at Herond, smiled. But it wasn't the man she'd known. Not completely. Suddenly, the wind stopped. The air thickened. The townspeople of Crossvale stepped into the streets, every one of them. Their eyes now completely black. Mouths shut. Hands folded. Like they were praying. But not to a god. To him. From the well, smoke rose. And then, a shape. Tall. Genderless. Skinned in ash. Eyes like smoldering coals. It stood behind Neat. Placed a hand on his shoulder. And smiled. "You were always the echo. Now become the voice." Neat stood. The feather in his hand dissolved to dust. A spiral, black and pulsing, appeared on his chest. He turned to Alana and Maria. "I know who I am now." Maria stepped back. "You're possessed." "No," Neat said, voice layered with something ancient. "I'm chosen." Alana raised her rifle. Tears burning her eyes. "Then I guess you're our next god to bury." Chapter 20. The echo becomes the voice. The land remembers too well. Gods don't die, they change names. And echoes? Echoes don't fade. They grow louder until somebody listens. And now, Neat's voice is no longer his alone. The spiral burned through his shirt. Not fire. Something worse recognition. A living brand that pulsed with each breath. The townsfolk of Crossvale knelt in a perfect circle around the well. Still, silent, devoted. Neat stood at their center, eyes closed, lips parted, like he was waiting to speak a language older than dirt. Alana moved slow, her rifle raised, finger tight on the trigger. "You said you knew who you were," she called. "So say it, out loud." Neat opened his eyes. They weren't black. They were Melissa's brown. But behind them, something watched. "She left a door open," he said. "She thought it was closed, but it wasn't, just cracked, and I walked through." Maria stepped beside Alana. "We've buried enough gods." "Then you know how this ends," Neat said. "But you don't know what comes after." The sky shimmered. Not lightning. A ripple like heat over glass. The sun shifted 2 fingers west, then snapped back into place. Time had flinched. Neat stepped forward. The townsfolk didn't blink. "I don't want to hurt you," he said. "You already did," Alana said. "You just ain't finished yet." She fired. The bullet bent midair, snapped sideways into the dirt. Neat didn't move. "It listens to me now." "What does?" Maria shouted. "Whatever's left of the thing that lived in her," he answered. "Whatever crawled out of Wormstone, whatever waited for her to break, and chose me when she didn't." He raised a hand. The ground trembled. The sky cracked, and the spiral on his chest began to turn. Alana dropped her rifle, drew her blade, and ran. Maria followed. Because if you can't shoot a god, you cut the voice out of his throat before it learns to sing. Desert wind builds slowly under a haunting string melody. Faint echoes of past chapters Melissa's voice, gunfire, chanting fade in and out like ghosts. Narration, calm, grim, final. The West ain't clean, never was. It don't bury its dead proper, don't forgive its sins fast, and it sure as hell don't forget what crawled up from Wormstone Canyon. Melissa rose like a storm and burned like one too, but fire don't end nothing out here. It just makes room. Now Neat stands where gods fall. Alana and Maria ride with blades drawn, and the dust. The dust is still moving. Part 1 is over, but the reckoning's just begun. This has been Grave Dust and Gunpowder, a Whispers Between Worlds audiobook. New chapters drop weekly. Subscribe, follow, and ride with us before the dust swallows you, too.